May 8th, May love. I was thinking about May the 4th be with you. It's now May the 8th, 2026. And so it's literally, this is the choice for us, laid on the table. So it is happening. Right? That there is a madhouse going on out in the world. But there is a person, one person, just for now, just for this moment, one person who's raising his arm and saying, please stop, look at some information, and then go back. And just go back to where you were with the information, and then see how you want to carry on. Does it affect the decisions that you're making? It's fucking magic position to be in. Campaign next week, a PhD. So the state I've got now is that I can, when my professor asks me the question, Dr. Stephen Very, a professor, a doctor, who in South Bank University set me a challenge for my 2008 thesis as a mature student. Could I take existing concrete tank engineering that was done with coefficients and find a way of doing it without the coefficients? Was the question that he asked me. And he said, oh, can you produce a spreadsheet? And so I set off to investigate this, which I knew nothing about at all, but it sounded interesting. By the time I'd finished, I knew everything that there was to know about it, and the answer was no, I couldn't. I had to use the coefficients, right? So that I identified the history of this engineering practice for concrete tanks. I identified the various tomes that were in use in engineering today, centered them into one, and said, yes, they're all following the same practice. It's this practice. They do it in a slightly different way, but it all stands on those coefficient tables from the PCA 1993, and that those coefficient tables aren't referenced. So it was like an audit, a report that I gave to him. I said, no, I can't. And the reason I can't is because I can't get at the fucking theory. If I could get at the theory, maybe, then I could do it without the coefficients. So then 3 days ago, wasn't it? I was up here on my spot in the morning, and I thought, I think we can do it. And if I've talked about it before, I apologise. I'm going to do it again. So that's a concrete tank. A concrete tank replicates the boundary of a molecule of water. So instead of a molecule of water having to stand itself up, it can lean onto the wall of the tank and be bigger. So its scale can increase. But it's a cylinder. Yeah? I0ve takes the cylinder wall in 1915 and tells us he's pretending it's made of iron. So he just presumes a skin, very thin skin, so that you get the membrane effect, because it's a thin shell. It's a shell container, you see. But I know now from 1906 that that's an infinitely thin wall. So this is my model, how I bested I0ve. He takes an infinitely thin wall, and then you can see from his 15 works there's a graph, does this, right, of ring tension and bending, and it wibbles and moves. And you notice at the bottom there is a positive moment, right, at the bottom. Now, by taking the coefficients from that graph of that line, you can then you can use matrix calculus to develop a mathematics that works beautifully. All standing on the coefficient tables, you see. You've placed there's a placeholder there, the coefficient. But we're not allowed to look what's inside it, because I0ve tells us what's inside it. So we've now looked. Here we go. Concrete tank wall, infinitely thin. Within that container, there is the iconic structure, which I've drawn, which shows at the center where the cones meet, there's a tip, and now that's where I've shown where the moment of friction goes, so the moment of snap. So you can assemble the forces now inverted, so I can show the moment of twist and snap just at the center of two cones. So I'm saying, look, you can take the idea of everything, assemble it into these two cones, but one force is twisting that way, one force is twisting that way, right? 4 to 2 to 1 to -1, and that the twist of the mass 2, twist of the cavitation 4 creates a -1 tick, 4 to 2 to -1 tick. And so you can see it in the icon structure, right? But you can bring it back into nuclear engineering, back into the concrete tank engineering, through taking the idea of the infinitely thin concrete tank wall as an infinitely thin ring, and just take the height of tension and bending where you've worked it out to be, and there's the ring tension exists there. And that's a ring, infinitely thin. So you've got an infinitely thin wall and an infinitely thin ring with nothing there. Yes, it is. It's the fucking limited, the equator of the disc that you've created across the concrete water tank. So you've drawn a circle around of the concrete tank, looking at it. That's all you're examining is the infinitely thin layer of water that exists. And you see the meniscus, the surface tension. So the surface tension just exists as surfaces like this. A single surface with a twist in it from here to the cosmic microwave background. Here, Earth, pulsing water seed, to the observable cosmos, right? Outside of our sphere of influence. Everything that we think we see wrong because we're seeing it through spherical lenses that get created. These shock waves stack up and separate, so there's cavitation between them, sometimes massive, and sometimes they stack up and create surfaces where ring tension occurs and we see planets. So we're seeing the force spheres around Earth of surface tension going spherical, going back to the concrete water tank. I've seen it flat. So I've laid it flat and now I can analyze it. And I see them, look above it, see the yin yang. And then I see AB 14, 1915, Victor I0ve. Look at the side, you see AB 5, 1915, Victor I0ve, and you see the drip shape of the yin yang. That's one of AB 5 is one of a series, right? So now you see that they've already fucking know this. They have analysed the equator of the concrete tank and understood what's there. And I found God there, and I found the route to Christ, and I found the answer was to choose love. They found something different, didn't they? And so one of us is wrong. One of us is worshipping Satan, and one of us is worshipping God. We must choose. As far as I am concerned, my God is love, therefore I'm fucking right. And I insist on the right to say so. Or to challenge me. Prove me I'm wrong, engineering. Yeah? Or give me my doctorate. That's my challenge to set myself for next week. I'm looking forward to it very much, because you, Earth, human beings, are going to hear this fucking information if it kills me. And if it does kill me, I just hope I've done enough to leave enough of a trail to make people realise why I was killed. I love you. Welcome to your future, children. Fade out.